Northern England, late summer 1943. At a quiet airfield beyond hedgerows and stone lanes, a heavy bomber squadron prepared for routine flight. Ground crews moved slowly, voices low, metal still unscarred. Nothing yet suggested rupture. The morning held order, engines asleep, tails intact, as if war itself had paused nearby, waiting for permission to begin its work. The calendar marked another day of service, ordinary on paper, fragile beneath the calm sky. Men believed it would pass. Quietly now. The pilot, an unremarkable man from the Midlands, had learned to trust routine. He counted gauges, not chances, and listened more than he spoke. His crew shared the habit. They flew together long enough to read silence. None expected heroism that day. The aircraft was a machine, dependable until it wasn't. Orders were clipped, weather tolerable, fuel measured precisely, leaving little room for doubt. Confidence rested not on courage, but on repetition and memory. Nothing else was required. Today, the break came without spectacle. Flak scattered the formation, and a dull impact shuddered aft. No alarm sounded at first. Control held. Yet a vibration lingered, subtle and wrong, felt through boots and spine. Reports followed, measured, incomplete, as discipline required. The tail had torn along a seam, metal peeling like paper, still attached by little more than faith. Turning back was implied, not spoken, while altitude bled and faces stayed fixed forward. Nobody raised a voice. At all. Ever. On the intercom, a suggestion surfaced, almost apologetic. The pilot remembered tape kept for charts and boots, never meant for airframes. Authority paused, then consent arrived as a nod. A crewman crawled aft, wind clawing, hands numb, wrapping what remained, layer by layer, binding motion to stillness. It was not repair, only delay, an argument made with adhesive against gravity and speed. Each strip reduced the shutter slightly, enough to keep instruments readable. Hope remained unspoken, thin. Command issued no speech. The order to return was brief, unemotional. Later reports would list damage, weather, outcome, nothing of the tape. In margins of diaries and maintenance notes, the moment survived quietly, a footnote awaiting readers patient enough to search forgotten boxes. Those who read such files may find how survival often rested on small, unnamed decisions. The aircraft limped home, altitude shallow, escorts thinning as fuel ran low. Nothing else was recorded. That day, approach stretch time. The tail held, then wavered, then held again. Hands tightened, breathing slowed by practice. When wheels met ground, the aircraft protested but obeyed. Silence followed, heavier than noise. Men climbed out without ceremony, tape fluttering, unnoticed by most. A mechanic later shook his head, calling it foolish, then said nothing more. Paperwork resumed, engines cooled. The airfield returned to order by evening. No medals followed, only rest and routine. Night fell. Slowly in following weeks the bomber flew again after proper repair. The pilot did not repeat the story. Others hinted, then forgot. War advanced, consuming attention. Improvisation remained unofficial, tolerated only when successful, erased when it worked too well. The tape itself was discarded, ordinary refuse among crates and rags. Memory chose efficiency, keeping outcomes while shedding the fragile methods. Only a few lines survived in ledgers, without emphasis or explanation. Enough to persist. What remained was the knowledge that collapse had been delayed by minutes and judgment. Such margins defined survival. The crew returned to duty, names re-entered rosters, while risk recalculated itself quietly. The war did not mark the day as special, yet it changed how some men listened to vibration thereafter. They carried on, aware that the line between loss and return could be thin and temporary. Ahead waited consequences, recorded elsewhere, in colder language. Those pages would follow, Sue. After landing, separation followed without comment. Crews dispersed to barracks, mess halls, other aircraft. The pilot was reassigned within days. War moved men like equipment, efficiently and without explanation. The bomber was logged, repaired, returned. No inquiry followed. Survival required no justification. Only the next mission mattered. Night trains carried some east, others south. Letters home softened details, replacing fear with routine. Silence became policy, easier than memory. The tape episode faded into logistics. Quickly, operations intensified. Flights grew longer, losses routine. Faces vanished from bunks overnight. The men who had shared that flight rarely crossed paths again. When they did, the tail incident was not mentioned. Shared danger formed no obligation to speak. Orders arrived typed, stamped, unquestioned. Personal judgment remained invisible within official success. The war valued results, not methods. Improvised acts dissolved into statistics. The pilot learned this early, adjusting expectations, reducing himself to function. Memory retreated inward. Guarded one crewman was later captured after a different sortie. Another transferred units. A third did not return. Paper recorded outcomes cleanly, no connection traced between them. The taped tale saved no one beyond that day. Its influence ended with landing. Yet during marshes, interrogations, and waiting, some recalled that flight. Not the danger, but the quiet permission to act without instruction. Such recollections offered brief resistance against despair. They proved judgment had once mattered. Even if unacknowledged, even if forgotten bureaucracy advanced smoothly. Phones replaced faces. Aircraft numbers outlived men. In reports, survival appeared binary. There was no category for temporary fixes or fragile decisions. War tolerated deviation only when it vanished into success. The pilot returned stateside months later, uncelebrated, his service complete on paper. He carried no proof of that morning except sensation, a remembered vibration still held together by care and chance. He spoke of weather instead. It was simpler, always simpler. For everyone involved years later, archives received boxes of mixed materials. Logs, letters, maintenance notes. Somewhere, adhesive residue marked a margin, unexplained. No curator flagged it. The story required assembly, patience, inference. Without names attached, it resisted retelling. Histories prefer clarity. This one offered none. Only an aircraft that returned, and a method that should not have worked. That contradiction lingered unnoticed, waiting for readers willing to accept incomplete truths. Few were. Most passed on. Silence prevailed. As intended, those who lived carried on quietly. Careers ended, families grew, memories thinned. The pilot aged without recounting details. When asked about danger, he minimized it. War stories demand emphasis he refused to give. He believed the moment belonged to circumstance, not bravery. That belief preserved him, allowing distance from what might have been lost. The taped tale became merely another adjustment, no different from trim or throttle. He slept better that way. So did others. Memory remained controlled. Carefully contained, the war concluded. Records closed, some names never resolved. The airfield returned to pasture, grass-covered concrete. Nothing marked where order nearly failed. Only documents suggested otherwise, and they spoke softly. For those who read them now, the absence of emphasis is itself instruction. Survival often left no trace, only outcomes mistaken for inevitability. Such stories persist only when sought deliberately. They do not demand attention. They wait, patiently, for eyes willing to linger. For listeners willing to stay, what endures is not the tape, nor the aircraft, but the gap between report and experience. That space holds countless moments like this, undocumented, unresolved. History keeps moving, leaving edges frayed. If you wish to find them, remain with the fragments, the pauses, the margins. Comment or subscribe to continue exploring these forgotten records of the Second World War, where silence carries weight and survival leaves almost nothing behind.